Uh, oh, the meeting is being recorded. I already said that, but we've got it. So, a quick, of course, as educators, we say what we're going to talk about tonight, but no one ever reads these slides, so we'll just jump ahead. We are going to talk about some of the things that this SIG had direct responsibility for, and it is my pleasure to talk about something that has been something this SIG has pushed for a number of years. It was a big issue last year at an annual meeting, and that is student membership. It has been a barrier for any student who has not been a full-time student with 12 credit hours as a grad student or an undergrad student. And with your guys' support, we were able to approach the presidents this past summer. We talked to them a lot. I pushed and pushed and said what the issues were, and you guys gave me enough information to be able to talk about why that was an issue and why that really didn't make sense for ACSM and the benefits of it. And so what we were able to do is actually yesterday at the town hall, they approved new language around student membership. And that new language is what you see here for graduate and undergraduate. It basically is the same. They just have to be an undergraduate or graduate student with an interest in the field. So we got rid of the language of having to be a certain amount of credit hours. And we also got rid of the language about them having to have a certain major, which really should open that up to every one of your students now. That makes it a lot lower barrier for them to be able to access. And I think that'll be good for our students to be able to come and present and also to be a part of something and see if it's where they want to make their home at, which we hope they do. We're here for a reason, but we know that its price can be steep as a non-student member. And so to get them in under that, we are happy to announce that your words were heard and they listened. And so we're super happy for that. Additionally, other things that we accomplished this year, which apparently I deleted that slide looking ahead. Oh, well, is we had 2 webinars this year. Those are available to you as members. We have a YouTube site that those are recorded on, and you can go access them. If you don't have access, you can email us as well, and we can send you the YouTube link. But we had one over AI this year, talking about AI in teaching and how that is utilized. We're all starting to incorporate that, and that was a really good one just to hear about the differences. That was in the fall. And then in the spring, we had a webinar that was over accreditation and what that looks like for the ACSM certifications moving forward. And so that was really good if you're looking at any part of that process, from looking at starting that in the middle of it or at the back end of kind of having to do your review cycles. It was definitely helpful, and we encourage you guys to see that as well. The other cool news we have this year that we want to talk about is we have now, last year we had some interest in starting a regional special interest group in education. So the Southeast chapter of the American College of Sports Medicine now has a regional education SIG, which is amazing. If you're part of that, please let us know and we can get you in contact with their leadership team to sign up. But we also have some interest in, I think, from the Midwest region. We have our leader there that's going to take control of that. Of starting another regional there. And we think this is a great way for you to meet people who are closer, that you can work with a little easier than across the country, and you know more what's going on. But we think this will be a great opportunity for regional SIGs to start as a way to bring students in, for you to get leadership experience if you're looking at fellowship, but then to kind of lead into the national SIG as far as the awards go and things like that. We want to be a part of that. And so we just want to give you the information of what it looks like to start a SIG. We weren't sure last year what it looked like to start a regional chapter, and now we have some more things in place to kind of guide you if it's what you want. We do have the 11 regions here. We're here as a national SIG to support you, but we can't take the lead on this. This has to start with you at your region, and we really want to encourage that. Again, trying to engage students. How many students here? Great number, but we know the regions are a much better place for that. And so how many of them are becoming TAs for the first time and maybe would love some information and be able to connect with you, more experienced professionals in teaching, to be able to get that information? I know I would have loved that when I first started and didn't have it. And so we've come up with a simple graphic that just shows you kind of what the step process looks like. This can go for a long time if you want to stretch it out, or you can condense this really into a couple of weeks or months if you have the right people in place. And it really starts with find people that are in your region that want to do the same thing. Okay, once you have a couple of people, really just 2 or 3, you can start the conversation of what it looks like, what you want to do, build your leadership team. Again, that can be just 2 or 3 people. And then from there, you have to engage your regional chapter, which I can't do for you. You've got to go to your regional chapter kind of leadership. It's kind of the Wild West right now for regional SIGs. There aren't a lot of rules for it. And so you can get in, if you do this quickly, you can get in before they start making it more complicated and harder. That's my recommendation, right? How many of you like that's what you try to do? I do it in my job all the time. Wait, there are no rules here, then I'm just going to do it, and then they can write the rules after I'm done. Um, but you would approach them and just see what that looks like. Most are very supportive of it and want that. And maybe they can give you some space at a regional meeting, help you to access members. And that's what we can do. Once you've kind of got the process and it seems like it's going to happen, we can come in as in the National SIG and help advertise. We can help to put links out in front to get people to sign up. We have access to our membership roles. And so we can kind of delineate who's in what region and send that more directed out to get them. They're part of the national, they're probably going to be a part of the regional chapter. And we think it's a great way to do that. We can help share and promote, and we'll kind of cross-pollinate with that, regional for national and national with regional things. So you'll probably start seeing a lot more of that moving into the next year as we have regional SIGs that are established. And then the biggest thing we want to make sure of is that we collaborate and avoid overlap. This year we were able to work with Southeast, and that the fact they had talked about doing an AI kind of webinar. And we said, actually, as the national, hold up, please don't. We already have speakers in place. And so they were able to pivot into something that would serve their members in a broader way, because what we don't want is 16 webinars on AI that all say the same thing, right? Now, if they want to do one next year, we don't plan on that. So maybe it's a good time for them to delve in what the topics were that fit their region better, whatever that may look like. And then we really just want to engage and grow. We want you guys to be able to connect and find and get the resources that we already have out there and connect you guys with that. And so that's kind of what we're looking at. If you want to learn more, please come talk to us. But again, it really starts at your region. Find your people, and then we can help you figure out how to navigate that. So a couple more pieces of information, and then we will get to the more interesting parts of things that people probably come here more for. First of all, we want to say a huge thank you to our outgoing co-chairs. So we have 4 co-chairs, and Deba Manny and Raquel Kapler are finishing their terms. They're our outgoing chairs, and so we want to thank them very much for all the service they've provided the last 3 years. And with that, that means we have 2 positions that we need to replace. Now, typically, we have kind of a voting process, and those 2 chairs, we kind of put a call out earlier this spring, about kind of 2 new co-chairs, asking people to volunteer for that, kind of focusing on social media platforms, and then kind of helping organize our meetings throughout the year and promote events. That's kind of what they have focused on the last couple of years. And instead of having you guys vote this year, which we typically do, we only had 2 people actually say they wanted to. So next year, you guys need to be better and volunteer. Okay, I want to have election. It's much more fun. We can send out, all of you know it's election season, so we can start sending out mailers, right? You all want more mailers in your mailbox? We'll start sending those out as a SIG. So what I want to do is I want to recognize our 2 co-chairs that will be starting basically after this meeting. It's kind of the transitionist period. I don't know if either of them made it. I know one for sure wasn't here, but the other one I haven't seen. But the first one is Courtney. Courtney comes to us from Blair Cliff University. You can kind of read her bio statement there. We had them put this together when they were kind of running, and we wanted to give you some information about them. But this is recorded. We'll send out the PowerPoint as well if you want to learn more. But she'll be joining our team. And then our second person that will be joining us this year is Amber from Stephen F. Austin State University. Amber has taken a role the last couple of years of helping kind of update our website that's been out there. She was a winner of our Waltz Calor Award 2 years ago, maybe, I want to say. And so we're happy to have her join us. And so it's a familiar face as well. Don't know why all of this keeps popping up on this side of the screen, but it'll go away. And so we just want to welcome them. And so you guys will be seeing more of them as part of your co-chair as we move forward. That's the chat thing. And I don't know how to get rid of this on the far side. It'll just keep popping up.
She is on. We just welcomed her in.
Oh, perfect. Courtney's joining us online. Perfect. Awesome. Now to the thing that we want to get to that's kind of the big portion of our meeting every year. And so that is our Waltz Calor Award, an innovation in teaching. I'll let Julie take a hold and kind of talk about that. She leads that as part of our team. But we do want to thank Waltz Calor tremendously for their sponsorship of this award for our snacks this year. We have a couple of representatives in the back as well. We have Dave and Terry in the back. Yes, give them a big round of applause. They do a lot for ACSM. They do a lot for us. And so if you have questions, we definitely want to encourage. They're going to hang out talk to them tonight, ask them things. They have an amazing booth as well that we encourage you to go down and see. If you haven't looked at their resources, we've all looked at their resources at least, but if you're curious about some other things, they've got some cool things going on with some online platforms and possibly introducing more AI in the coming future that I think we're all going to be interested in. And so having some conversation with them and again, thanking them, I think is a wonderful thing. But I'll let Julie take it from here about our award because I don't do anything with it.
Okay. All right. Good evening, everybody. Julie Marino from the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. I've had the privilege of serving as a co-chair of our SIG this year and the distinct pleasure of helping to facilitate the 2026 Walters Kluwer Teaching Award. And like Jonathan said, I established the Southeast Regional Special Interest Group. And it was actually a really easy process. So if anybody has questions about that or is curious about how to start that in your region, I'd be happy to talk when we all start to socialize because it's been great. Okay, so this award recognizes an ACSM educator member who did something distinct and innovative in their exercise science classroom. They applied a new technique, new teaching strategy, but they also measured its effectiveness and how it impacted student learning and student success. So it's, that's part of the requirement is that not only did they do something innovative, but they also looked at how did this really impact students? Did it do what they intended for it to do? And Jonathan already thanked our sponsor, but Walters Kluwer, they sponsor our interest group, and part of that is a $1,000 honorarium to the award winner. So thank you for that. We appreciate that. Just a little bit of information about the award itself. So what's required to win this award? Again, there's the implementation of some innovative teaching strategy. There's thoughtful reflection on how did it go? How did that impact students? And then there has to be some outcomes. So some metrics related to student success, student response to that innovation. And it has to include at least one of these objectives. Some of the submissions included multiple objectives, but research-informed approaches to teaching and learning, incorporation of current trends, looking at current trends in pedagogy, engaging technology, new teaching technologies, and using data to inform instructional design. And so I just want to share that when the deadline was approaching for the award, we had, I think, 1 or 2 submissions. And so I sent an email to our whole membership and I said, we're going to extend the deadline by about maybe 5 days. And we went from 2 to 12 submissions, which was great. And I got lots of emails expressing gratitude for the extra time to submit. And so it made me laugh and it made me think we're really not that different from our students, where I'm not saying anyone procrastinated. I'm not saying that, but I think we appreciate also a little extra grace, a little extra time to do our homework. So we got 12 submissions, which was fantastic. And I say that to maybe plant a seed for next year. Be thinking about if you're doing something innovative and creative in your class, or you're thinking about trying something new in the fall semester, right? Don't just do that, but also think about how can you assess what you're doing? What are you trying to accomplish by doing this cool new thing in your class? You're going to create this new assignment, this new portfolio, whatever it is. What are you trying to accomplish and how could you measure that? Because that's what we're looking for in the award submission. So I want to plant the seed now. I'll send you a reminder in August to be thinking about it. And then the submissions will be due in March 2027. And I'm not going to tell you now if there's an extension on the deadline. I'm just going to tell you there's a deadline. These are the 12 or 11 faculty and 1 faculty team who submitted materials. And I worked with Amber Shillette, our new co-chair, and Douglas Gregory to review these using a rubric. And it was really challenging. These submissions were inspiring and creative and just a lot of fun to read about. People are doing really cool things in their classroom. And with the permission of these faculty, what I would like to do is not publish their entire packet of materials that they submitted, but maybe a summary of what they did. And we talked about posting it on our website. There's some changes to how our webpage is going to be hosted, but we want to make this stuff available to you all with their permission so that you can also see what all of these people did. I already know Doug, in reviewing the submissions, he said, I'm trying that in the fall. I'm going to do that in my class. So that's the whole purpose of the SIG, right? Is to bring us all together to share ideas and to support teaching and learning. So, okay, I'm done, Jonathan. Okay.
Oh, that was she got way.
Did you time me? Okay. You told me I would talk too long. All right, so these are our the individuals who submitted, and without further ado, we are very pleased to recognize Dr. Lauren Tapp, Associate Professor of Exercise Science at Georgia Gwinnett College. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
For you. And so we've invited Dr. Tapp to give a presentation sort of outlining what her teaching innovation was and how it was effective. So thank you.
Okay. Hi, thank you. My full disclosure is that I was not one of the first two submissions. So I very much appreciated the extension. But also I just wanted to thank the committee for their work in going through these submissions. I'm sure that they were all excellent. And probably like most people, sometimes you're surprised that, oh, I got picked. And I was pleasantly surprised. But I think as educators, we sometimes think that what we're doing it's good, but maybe it's not the best or recognizable. And to be recognized feels really good, and it lets you know that you're doing something right. So I'm happy to share what my strategy was. So let's take a look. So my innovation was maybe not as innovative as it sounds on the surface. So I implemented a capstone level practicum course. And I know that a lot of programs have a practicum course, so that's maybe not necessarily that innovative, but hopefully you'll see that some of the things that I implemented were maybe different than what you're doing at your current programs if you do have a practicum course. But when I was looking through, all of the different ideas, of different programs and what they offer in their practicum course, I pulled a little bit from here and there, but then a lot of it I kind of just made it up as I went along. And so I'll share what that was. But before I get into that, I do want to just share a little bit about my institution. This is my shameless plug to tell the rest of the country who we are, because we are a new institution. We were just established in 2006 as a brand new four-year institution as part of the University System of Georgia. And truth be told, even people down the road from our campus don't even know we're there. So if I can tell as many people as possible where we are, what we do, I'm going to do that. So please, bear with me on that. But we are a four-year college. We started with around 120 students. I was not there at the very beginning, but I came shortly after in 2011. And at the time, I think we had about 25 to 30 exercise science majors. Now we have almost 500. And our total enrollment has jumped to almost 13,000. So we've grown pretty quickly. But the reason why I mention that is because we're a very young institution, we don't have a lot of policies, procedures, best practices in place that have been established for decades. A lot of the things that we do, we figure it out as we go along, kind of like he said, if there's no rules, we're trying it and see what happens. But sometimes there are rules that really aren't in place for a reason, just because it sounded like a good idea to have a rule, and that can really hinder the process of starting something new. But I will say that our institution is pretty good at supporting new ideas. So when I came up with this idea, they were very supportive, not as financially supportive as I would have liked, but in terms of curriculum processes and legal processes and such, it was helpful. But I presented a couple years ago, I think at Southeast, and I shared the process of starting that course. So if you're interested in that, I can share that in a different format, but I am happy to share that as well. So the problem I was trying to address with this course was that we were noticing that our students were not really becoming proficient. So we would get to, the last semester, the last year of their program, and their skills really weren't that great. And it really wasn't their fault, because we were not giving them the opportunity to continuously practice these skills over and over again. They might be exposed to them in a couple of different classes, but that was pretty much it. And so the other piece of that was we were getting feedback from our internship sites that were telling us that, like, I don't know if your students are really ready to be put out there at external sites. Some of our internship sites really wanted students who are a little bit more kind of ready to jump in and start doing some things on their own. And so we were like, okay, well, we have to do something about this. And it had been kind of an aspiration of mine to start a practicum course years before I actually did it. But, it can be kind of cumbersome. And I had also become the department chair, so that was, a whole nother thing. And finally, I just decided that we have to tackle this. And so we created this exercise science practicum course, which initially was supposed to address the deficit in skill, but it really became something much more than that. We gave the students the option to take either, so in our curriculum before this course existed, they could do the internship or they could do a supervised research project. So we just added this to the curriculum as an option for their capstone experience. But they're not limited to just one of these. If they wanted to take any combination of these as electives, they can do that too. My ultimate goal is to eventually have the practicum as a prerequisite for internships, but I'm kind of struggling a little bit to get faculty buy-in on that, which was kind of the reason why I started some of the data collection. So I'll talk about that in a little bit. So this is how the course kind of evolved from the beginning. The first semester it was implemented was summer of 2022. And ironically, we've never offered it in summer again, partly because that's around the time I became department chair and because I don't get paid to teach in the summer and I'm the only one that teaches this course. It really just didn't get offered again in the summer. So the first time I offered it, it was kind of just trying some things out to see what worked. And surprisingly, it went pretty smoothly, but the requirement or the components of the course were not that in depth at that point. But I think it served the purpose, which was to get the students more regular hands-on experience and engage with the community, and it did exactly that. So come fall 2023, I introduced the case study assignment. So instead of doing what some of the other practicum courses had done that I had researched, where they set, looking for a specific population and then invited participants to be a part of that, I kind of just cast a wide net because I really wasn't sure what we were going to get. And we also had a short timeline to recruit. So instead of kind of, doing a population kind of study or looking at the participants as a group, we looked at each one of them as individuals, and then the students would be paired with a participant, and that's who their case study would be on, which opened up a whole other door for case study research, and I presented on that last year too. So fast forward to spring 2024, that's when I started incorporating the dissemination aspect. So they were writing their case study papers. Now they were required to present them. Every year we have a couple of different research symposiums within our institution. And so they would present them at the end of the semester at one or both of these research symposiums. And we also, with a couple of students, we actually wrote papers for journal submission, and we did get one published so far. So that was a big accomplishment. And I'll talk about that in a minute. And then this is also when I started collecting the clinical self-efficacy data. And then that's like what I said, I was going to try to use this to convince faculty that we need to have this class as a requirement, not as an option. And then fast forward fall 2025, as if all of the other stuff wasn't enough. I just, like to create a lot of work for myself, I guess. But I started experimenting with AI exercise prescriptions. And so we've done that for 2 semesters now. And I'm not really sure how I feel about that component of the course yet. It hasn't hurt the experience in any way, but I'm not sure that it adds to it what I want it to add. So that's still kind of a work in progress. So there's a lot going on this slide. I won't go through every single detail, but this is kind of a roadmap to what I do in the class. If you're interested, please feel free to take a snapshot, or this can be shared at some point. But this is a timeline of how I implement each component of the class. So basically, at the beginning of the class, the first couple weeks, the students are practicing their skills. I'm kind of evaluating them to see what we need to spend a little bit more time practicing before they start working with participants. So this also gives me time to make sure that their CPR and AED certifications are up to date, and they do their CITI training. Then after a couple of weeks, well, usually the recruitment phase kind of changes depending on what semester it is, whether it's fall or spring, how responsive my PR person is, and a few other factors. But we usually start recruiting about a month or so before I intend to have the participants come in for their first visit. So once I get so we send out an announcement. It's an online survey is how they express interest. The survey is basically not quite a PARQ, but similar to that kind of questioning, just to see if they meet general eligibility. And then from that list, the students will screen them using the ACSM screening tool or algorithm. And that also gives them practice to use the tool. And so they're getting practice with their skills. They're using the screening algorithm. They have to look up all the medications that the people report. So they're, getting a lot of practical experience here. And then once we decide who the participants are going to be, they arrive for their first assessment. And I got to say, this is probably my second favorite part of the course, is to see how nervous they are before they're going to meet their participants. And it's like the things that, we deal with regularly, like, oh, they have high blood pressure, they have high cholesterol. They're terrified, of working with somebody with high blood pressure or something. So before they meet with their participants, it's kind of funny to see how nervous they are. But they end up doing really well, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So once they do their assessment, they build the prescription. And this is kind of where I started implementing the AI component, because so I don't teach testing a prescription regularly. I teach it periodically, and this is nothing against the faculty that do teach that, but they all come in with kind of different backgrounds in prescription writing. And so this was kind of a way for me to standardize the kind of prescription writing that we will do in the class. And so again, I'm not sure how I feel about this component of it, but right now that's what we're doing. But it cuts down on some time of teaching all of the prescription writing, and allows us to get right into actually having a prescription, because it's a pretty quick turnaround. It's about 5 days between when they do their assessment and when they start with their first session, which isn't unusual, in a real world setting. So usually the training period is about 8 weeks. Sometimes it's been as long as 10 weeks, sometimes as short as 6 weeks, just depending on, how the semester goes. This past semester was a little crazy because we had, I think, so our class meets Monday, Wednesday, and I think we had 3 Monday weather days. So we lost 3 class periods. So that was a challenge to work around. But, we made it work. You have to be kind of flexible when you're doing a class like this. And so during the prescription period, they're doing a lot of different things at once. They're going through their prescriptions, they're meeting with their client regularly, they're taking notes on modifications. They're running a new AI program every week. So we basically change the prompt every week or two to allow for progression. So I'll talk about that maybe at a different time. But there's a lot of things going on. So meanwhile, we're talking about their case study. How are they going to find kind of a unique angle to write their case study about? And so they're learning writing while they're also doing the prescription implementation. So fast forward to the end of the training period, they do their post-assessment, and then we focus on dissemination. So by then, they have written most of their case study paper. It is pretty tight between when they get their final assessment results. They have to analyze their results and basically write their results and discussion section within usually about a week. to 2 weeks. Usually I can kind of extend it out, but we also go through several rough draft periods. Nothing is graded until the very end. So it's a lot of back and forth. And I kind of frame it as we're working on this paper together. This is not you're submitting something for me to grade. This is us trying to get a good product. And so I think that kind of takes the pressure off of them a little bit. Sometimes it's not pressure enough because they don't submit things when they're supposed to. So that's another story. But anyway, so the dissemination aspect has been pretty successful, I think. And we've become one of the most popular presentations at our internal research symposium, and I think people look forward to hearing what our students have been doing. So that's kind of a little bit about all the things that we've been doing. And then if you look at the far right-hand column, those are all the learning outcomes. So there's so many things to focus on, and it is really hard to focus on just a few things, but this is really all of the things that they're getting exposure to and practice with throughout this course. So it is really packed with learning experiences. And so some of those really high impact practices are their clinical skill development, which was really the primary purpose of the class, their introduction to human subject research in the form of case studies. And when I presented on the case study aspect last year, I think it might have been 2 years ago. In any case, this was a successful implementation because I found that with a lot of undergraduate students, they get really overwhelmed or intimidated by research. When you break it down into just a single person, they're still able to go through the whole research process, but without a big scary data set where they have to do statistics and all that. So it's something they implemented themselves. So it's here was my person, I did this is what happened, and this is why I think I saw what I did. And when you frame it like that, they do pretty well with it. So I think that was a good implementation for them to learn about research. And then, of course, their scientific communication. They all come in with different writing abilities, different experience with writing and learning to write, and different professors they had, taught them different things about writing. But this is kind of where I can assess that and get them on the right track before they graduate. So we've done about 40 plus oral presentations, 10 poster presentations, and like I said, we did have one peer-reviewed publication that was, I think, 2 years ago. So, and I'll talk about why we only have one and when I get to the challenges. But I think there's a lot of opportunity here to continue getting more exposure and more dissemination of what they're doing. So this is the data that I collected, and I haven't fully analyzed everything yet, but this is kind of just a simple pre-post comparison to basically they get a survey at the beginning of the semester and then they repeat the survey at the end of the semester. And I basically just ask them how they would assess their clinical skills in these different areas. So, fitness assessment overall, blood pressure, rest and exercise, standard assessment, strength, body comp, etc. Exercise prescriptions, client interaction, presentations, and then individual consultations. So an example of how I asked them that was, how comfortable do you feel delivering health-related information or results to your client? And as you can see, the biggest changes happened in the prescription writing, and this was even with using the AI tool. So like I said, it didn't take away. It may have still added to their learning of prescription writing, but that's something I haven't fully assessed yet. And then their presentations, their ability to speak publicly and interpret information to a general audience or a scientific audience had improved quite a bit. And so these were not surprising. I expected to see these increases, but I think what really impacted me was how much they recognized it. And so that's where some of the qualitative information came in. So in the post survey, they're given an open-ended or free response where they can just kind of give any kind of feedback they wanted to. And some of the terms that kept coming up was getting out of their comfort zone. I learned how to build rapport. I gained confidence, learned how to communicate, critical thinking, and developing relationships. So these are all those soft skills that we know students need, that, well, we all need, but they're never really taught in any course. And I didn't set out to teach these, but this was a huge finding for me because this is clearly an area that was developed. And I could see it. So what earlier when I said my second favorite thing about the class was right before they meet with their participants. My first favorite thing is seeing how they grow. You can just see them transform like before your eyes over the semester. It's such an awesome observation, where you had, these shy kind of introverted students and, they're afraid to meet their participant for the first time. And now they're just chatting it up, making modifications, like, it's just such an incredible transformation to see. But I think the most impactful thing was that they now recognize that they are able to do those jobs, because before, a lot of the kind of anecdotal feedback that I would get from students is that they didn't feel comfortable applying for jobs. So if the jobs listed that they needed to have clinical skills on blood pressure or fitness assessments, they wouldn't apply for those jobs because they didn't feel like they could do it. And now with their self-efficacy of, their skills increasing, but also them having the confidence to do that, then, I think that was a real game changer for many of them. And so, and to see them articulate that into fully coherent sentences, this was not even, okay, they may have used ChatGPT to come up with some of these things, but I do think that the sentiment is real, and I do think that the impact that it made on them, was to make them more confident and able practitioners. So just to kind of summarize some of the challenges and opportunities that have come up over the course, because of the one-to-one ratio of the course, this is both a strength and a limitation. I think the one-to-one ratio is really key for building their confidence. And just to give a little background of my teaching style, I rarely intervene with what they're doing. Initially I had to constantly remind myself that they're not you, they're not going to do what you would do, but they might be doing what you would have done 25 years ago when you were first starting, and you turned out all right, right? So let them do the things they're going to do, as long as they're not hurting someone. If I see that they're going to hurt someone or they're doing something wrong or dangerous, obviously I intervene. Or if I see them struggling with like a modification or something like that, I might just come over and be like, hey, let's try this. But for the most part, I kind of let them find their way, and I think that's one of the things that helps them build that confidence. I also mentioned the short timeline between the recruitment and the implementation of the program, so that's also a limitation. Participant dropout can impact the student experience. Twice now, I have had 2 participants drop out at a point. Well, we've had participants drop out before, but it was usually early in the program and we could replace them. Twice we've had participants that dropped out kind of like around week 5 or 6, and it's only an 8-week program usually. So replacing them at that point wasn't really feasible. So that created a little bit of a creativity challenge, but we were able to figure something out for those students that it did impact. Also, with the case study research, there are limited options for case study exercise science research. So finding different publication or journals to submit publications was a little bit challenging for some of those. And then also with the students being at their last semester, typically, they may not be around to help with revisions if you do plan on continuing to work on the paper. So some of them are not interested, some of them are interested, but can't get a hold of them, or, once they realize there's other things for them to do, they kind of stop communicating. That's happened a couple times. So that's one limitation, and that's why we've only had 1 publication. But we've had several other students who could have published if they would have, wanted to. It would have taken a little bit more kind of back and forth with revisions, but their papers were initially good enough where it didn't need, extensive modifications. And as far as the opportunities go, obviously the enhanced student learning experience that was the number one thing, and that was the key to the implementation of this course. So not only are they refining their practical skills and getting more ready for their careers, but they're improving their self-efficacy and their own confidence in their skills, both in their clinical ability and in their writing and presentation skills. Also community connections, as I mentioned before, we're a new institution, and anytime we can engage with the community and let the community know, hey, here we are right down the street, that's great for our institution and for our program, for recruiting purposes. And then also, this course could be a research pipeline. So there's a million things I could do with this course. There's a million things you could do with this course if you implemented it in your own way. It's basically a template that you can pull ideas in and out to make it really whatever you want. And so I'm happy to share, anything about the course. If you're thinking of implementing something like this, just, ask away. So thank you. I want to thank the committee, first of all, for this, for your work on this award recognition, and also for Wolters Kluwer for the sponsorship, and for all my fellow educators that are doing what we need to do to get our students ready for that next step. So if you want to connect with me, the easiest way would be either through my email, or I've also put my LinkedIn. If you want to connect that way, please reach out if you have any questions, and I'll be happy to share how I, got to where I am now. So thank you. I guess we'll take a couple questions.
Yeah, so if anyone has any questions, I think this mic is on, or I can walk it around. Ask what you may have.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, thank
Hi.
you. Great presentation. My first question is, what's the size of this class? How many students are you having in it?
Oh, so I thought I was getting ready for the second question. So
Depending what you say,
it ranges between like 6 and 12.
Scale to a larger classroom size.
Yeah, so-
You change what you want.
Okay, so I will say that this past semester I had 12 students and also 12 participants, and that was too many. It was too many for our physical lab space. So I didn't really expand on this, but we do the class in our exercise science lab, which I prefer because it gives me I can pretty much see everything going on at the same time. We do have 2 different wellness center workout spaces on campus, and people always ask me like, oh, why don't you use those? And the reason why is because I feel like it would be too hard to kind of oversee everything that's going on. But the question that you asked was exactly one of the limitations of the 1-to-1 ratio. I've thought about how I can scale it up, and I don't know if I have a good answer to that, because if I did, I probably would have already done it. But I think that ideally, if I had an unlimited budget and we could build a brand new giant lab with, and force all the students to take the class as a required class, then yeah, we could have multiple sections of the class, all day long. But as of right now, with it being an elective and having limited space, it would be a challenge to scale it up. But I'm still thinking about it. So if you have any ideas, please let me know.
You are not building a program for the clients, they're actually working weekly and exercising along with them in that space?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, they're basically training them. Yeah.
So I actually did this with my class a few years ago. And a solution to that is to team up. You don't always work individually, and it teaches them the teamwork and how to communicate and how to talk through, different scenarios before they actually meet the person.
Mhm.
So that's one way to be doing it.
Thank you.
How many credits is this course?
3 credits.
Wow.
Mhm. Our internship is also 3 credits.
How many hours?
The internship is 150 hours for the semester.
Okay, thank you. That was great. I have 2 questions for you. One, you mentioned that this is sort of for the students who don't have those clinical skills yet to be placed for internships. How do you identify those students, or do they sort of select to put themselves in this sort of extra training?
Yeah, so initially that was the reason why we came up with the class, but that's not what it became. So we don't restrict the class to any person, but in order for them to do an internship, they have to go through an application process. And that includes getting like a recommendation from their advisor. So if they're not being recommended for the internship, we might advise them that they need to take the practicum course instead of internship. And then if it's not their last semester and they make it through the practicum successfully, they can do an internship after that.
Then, thank you. The second question, are you accredited, exercise science program with like ACSM, and does the capstone that count as like your capstone, your internship for accreditation?
So we're in the process now of the accreditation process. And according to our meeting last year, the practicum would count, as far as I know.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's because
Yeah.
you're actually for.
Yeah. hmm Yeah.
I was just curious.
I really hope so because that's the plan.
Anyone else with other questions? Perfect. Also, just a reminder, please get the snacks and the drinks over here. I don't want them to go to waste. And also, if we have any online, I don't know if we've had any questions online.
We do actually in the chat.
And I think it's also admirable that you are implementing a new curriculum design while also being chair of a department. That's something we don't see too often.
Thank you.
My question is with the participants, so they're from the community and do they have disease? And with that, like hypertension or even, I don't know, cancer, pulmonary diseases, how are the students prepared to apply a prescription for those disease populations?
Yeah, so when we put out our announcement that we're seeking participants, they complete like a PARQ, but a very basic survey. And one of the things that the students are learning through that process is that people don't always tell the truth on online surveys. So I've trained them to look for, for example, they'll say like, no, I don't have any health conditions, but then they have like 4 medications and you're like, something's not adding up there. So now they know to like look for those things. But we will not accept anybody into the program that has, uncontrolled or serious disease or anything like that. We will accept people with managed conditions like high blood pressure, high cholesterol. We've had some cancer survivors that have been in remission for quite some time. A lot of, like managed chronic illnesses, but they will need to have a medical clearance. And then the students know to abide by, what the medical clearance says. And we talk about that before they get assigned to their participant. So, and I think I debated whether or not I wanted to include only healthy people or people with, managed conditions. And I really wanted the class to be kind of a representation of who people really are. And so I thought it might be unrealistic if we only accept healthy people because that's just not, the normal population. So.
Quick follow-up question. Do you use the guidelines book as a textbook for the course? And do they refer to that when working with the disease populations?
Yes.
Thank
Mhm.
you.
We do have one question online.
Okay.
Where do you recruit your participants from? And do they come in during the class time or do the students meet with them outside of class?
Yeah, so we announce the program in a few different ways. I send it out through our listserv, our faculty listserv. I wrote up a little announcement and sent it to our PR person, and she does whatever she does with it. Sometimes it ends up like one cycle, it ended up in the AJC, the big newspaper of our area, and I got like 200 people that wanted to be in the program, and it was like way too many. But usually we get around anywhere from like 40 to 80 people that are interested. But it's just through community newspapers, social media, various channels that our PR person has connections to, I guess. And then it goes out through our internal like announcements within our institution. And then the other question was whether they meet with it. Yeah. So another, I don't know if I would say it's a challenge so much, but just something to consider is that in order for the participants to be able to come to the class has to be offered during a time when they're like not at work. So the class meets at 5:30, and some of the students kind of grumble about that because, they want to be done with class by then because a lot of them have to go to work or, have hospitality jobs or, training or whatever. And so that's been, I know, a limitation for some students in taking the class and that the time that it's offered. The other alternative would be like an early morning class, but I'm not really a morning person, so that's probably not going to happen. But so the evening time I think has worked out pretty well. But they do meet with the participants during the class. So.
Any other questions? Perfect. Hand up the back. This is how I'm getting my exercise in for the day.
So Melanie at Clayton State, we're a sister institution of the same system. I was wondering if you had any legality issues that you had to deal with through the program. So I see your announcement every year. We sponsor it with the USG because obviously we share the same space. We have a lot of students who travel from Gwinnett to Clayton. One reason, so the reason for my question is because our legal team at Clayton is really anti.
Yeah, I know that.
Our legal expert at Clayton used to be the chancellor.
So you've had difficulties getting legal approval, is what you're saying?
Well, if I force it, I'd get it, just because of my personality, but I can see that a particular assistant professor would be scared of dealing with such, treatment, if you will. So to say the least, and for instance, if you have to give a consent form, our legal team will have to pitch in the wording and so forth. So that takes a whole semester to get approved. My question pertains to your participants. Have you ever had to deal with any legal issues as far as somebody getting sick during a session or, and how did you deal with it?
So we did go through a legal process when the course was proposed, we were going through the curriculum process and the legal process simultaneously. So we had our, curriculum levels, and then I had basically submitted all the forms that we had planned on using to legal, and they changed the wording in a couple things, and then they added on like a volunteer agreement that's standard for the institution. But other than them just taking a long time, because we have only we have two attorneys on our staff, and that's it. So just them looking at it. Other than taking a long time, they really didn't have a lot of pushback. But we have fortunately not had any legal issues in the course. So, I mean, hopefully it stays that way, but I think, we're set up pretty well. I mean, obviously people are going to get injured or, have minor, ailments that are associated with exercise soreness or whatever, but nobody that has, tried to make a legal issue out of it or anything like that. And they're of course aware of those risks when they do the informed consent. So.
Do you have an institutional IRB or a local IRB, something in-house? I guess that might.
Yeah, so I actually do two different IRBs for this course.
And you teach students about how to do an IRB?
Yes. So I actually have two levels of IRB for this course. I have the IRB for me doing research on the students, and then I have one for them doing research on the participants. So yes.
You better get something to drink and eat.
Yeah, well, I didn't know I was the featured event, but I'll take it. I will take it.
I just want to say, I'm the editor-in-chief of the Undergraduate Research Journal, and we would welcome those case studies.
Okay, great. Yeah, great to know. Thank you.
Well, that's a promotion for everyone else to start this too. Right? Any other questions? Awesome. Let's give it up for.
Thank you. Please connect with me if I can help in any way.
Okay, we're almost done, and then we can mingle, and you guys can chug some tea and lemonade before they take it again. So a couple things, we got some QR codes up here for y'all to follow us on Facebook, our LinkedIn page, both of those are very active, our YouTube, which has a lot of our past webinars on them, trying to make that kind of a repository. Someone, I don't think at this meeting, requested one from 2022 in an email a couple weeks ago. That took me a little while to find, but I did find it. And then we do have some a new ACSM landing page. They have made a page for all the SIGs. And so we are encouraging people to go there and just check us out. We'll probably start trying to link everything there. So that'll be where we direct everyone to go to some of our other websites, things like that. It's a great spot for that. But what I do want to do before we kind of end this meeting is ask if there's any kind of open discussion, questions that you have, things you want to direct to us, anything like that, because last year during this time is where we started to hear those things about the student membership thing. And so what are you guys curious about? What do you guys want to talk about? What do you have questions for us or for the other membership in here? I think that's one of the most valuable pieces of our meeting. And so I just want to open that up for anyone. I see a hand, which is perfect.
Mike is going on.
Yeah, I kind of carried it so I can walk and talk, but I'll let you back around.
I have two questions. So if we did a regional chapter SIG, would chapter only members be able to have access to national SIG things, like webinars?
Like webinars. That's a great question that currently some leadership has asked me about, and I don't have a definitive answer. So what I will say is we can shut the door, but it's fine. I default to the more information I can give out that's going to help someone is what I'm going to do until I get told no. And so I think the national SIG is the national chapter. Oh, thank you. Perfect. I like this, man. I think it's one of those of at some point it's going to be to get those webinars, you would have to be a national member. However, we are looking at ways for at least the regionals to be able to provide some more information and more support and ways we can access things. I'm always about sharing information, and if videos are on YouTube, I can't stop anyone from sharing anything.
Yeah, well,
Makes sense? Yeah. Yeah.
And I get it both ways.
Yeah, it's a hard one. I don't know the right answer, but I will always default to what's helpful, especially in an education setting. It's not a job we get paid a lot. It's not a job where I should have to spend a ton of money to get my job done. And so if we have some things, I think they should be open.
And then in addition to asking those other 11 submissions, those other 11 to share their stuff, I'm wondering if any of them would be in that email willing to submit for 2027 as a session. I don't know if there's any category, things that we could, that post or something like that where we're going, we have data, right? Because a lot of it's like, I need to be in a room to talk about AI. I don't have a lot of data. I guess I could do a self-efficacy, so at least I could submit on something, but I'm like, if we actually have data, reach out to those people to get, we had 2 posters and one was not. I mean, that was just that.
Yeah.
So,
We did have a meeting today with some leadership from staff, and we addressed some concerns about the fact that when we submit abstracts, there's not a one that says education, and the fact that the abstract kind of guidelines for an education thing is doesn't really work, especially with some of us doing things that aren't necessarily what we want to publish. Maybe they're not something we can publish, but are really helpful and we need to. So we're working with them to see if we can make a category or something like that. There's also talk about having maybe a rapid fire, a table session, some things that if ACSM really wants to grow this and wants to cater toward educators, which they say they do, they need to make things for us to actually learn from. And I do know that Waltz Calore, we had a conversation, we're going to continue on to maybe try to do some kind of symposium or again, kind of talk with several people in there, going from publisher to faculty to student and trying to incorporate some student things as well. These conversations are happening at the Southeast SIG, but also at the national level. So I'm hoping there'll be more for next year, but we all know that, session proposals are due in like 30 days. We'll get that call next week. And so that always makes it difficult. but we are trying that. And so your voices and continue to send us emails help us to make that case as well. But we're hoping for more.
Frame that we've been in leadership here, it has changed. Leadership staff at ACSM, we do know that, but we also know that they're coming to us and they're wanting our help. And so we're holding a different set of cards now than we were 3 years ago. So I can tell you they're listening, and they're really listening to this thing because they know that we are the future of, or the connection with faculty is the future of the membership. So I felt very much empowered by that discussion today.
Awesome.
And if you can pass the mic back, and as you do so, please keep in mind, we do have webinars. We try to do one every kind of semester, fall and spring. Please give us your ideas. Okay. I'm out of ideas. I need your ideas of what you want. And if you know of people who want to talk, or if you have an idea and want to talk about it, please reach out. I want to know what you want to hear about. I've kind of covered the things I wanted to hear for now. And so I need your ideas. We need your ideas. Yes, sir.
Pretty valuable faculty feedback. I know that some of us at our regional level will pilot maybe symposium at the conference or regional webinars, things of that nature. And I think it's mentioned at the town hall, perhaps communicating with the national ACSM plan, like those people communicating with that facility. Midwest, we have this educational plan. Let's kind of shuttle that to everyone to create that value.
Yeah. No, I think so. I think my idea for as the regions get started is that not only will we be promoting some of those things, but as you guys have webinars, as you guys have ideas, that you can send those to the National SIG. And so if you are a part of the National SIG and part of that, you would theoretically receive things from Southeast and Midwest and Texas, right? But if you're just a part of Midwest, maybe you don't get quite all of that. But my goal would be that, yeah, if Midwest sends me something, I want to put that out in our blast. That try not to email you guys too much, but that's a great way and a great thing. And remember, with these regionals, whether you have a SIG or not, if you see something really good at your regional chapter, please promote them to tell them to apply to our award or apply their abstract or things like that, because we want those things there that have been refined and polished and maybe tried out for the first time and you learn something to then come here where more of us get to hear, and maybe even in a more polished way, right? We get more information from the feedback that we got today from our thing here of bigger class size and how that would work. Yeah.
One statement online, asking about webinars for next year. They think a webinar on course design and curriculum approval might be interesting.
Right.
So I have that written down.
Okay, perfect. Because I'll forget.
Fine.
Yeah.
Kind of a science program online. And I was curious if anybody in here does that. Not necessarily development, but teaching online.
Unfortunately, all I do is teach online.
Because I have a different method of what I'm using, and I kind of want to get it out there, but it's new, but it's not new. So I'd like to speak to those that are in the online space before today's over.
Don DeBall, President of Pacific University. I just want to make a quick comment. I'm thinking back to the earlier part of the conversation, the national meeting. I recall symposia that were education oriented, and they were in large meeting rooms, and they were very well attended. So there's precedence that would work well. So if that somebody needs to point that out as a historical reminder, that would be something to do, but they were very well attended and very useful.
Yes, and definitely if you guys have some of these things that I just can't remember, or you remember from things, please, up on the next slide actually is our email address right there at the bottom, acsm.edu. God, there's so many dots I want to put there, but it wouldn't let me. ACSM SIG@gmail.com is our official email. If you send things there, that allows us to keep them and then put them all together to be able to send and kind of correspond those to members and not just me saying things I want to say, which they sometimes think I do. But that is great. Yes, ma'am.
These Philias, I have an 11 o'clock presentation tomorrow with Mary Stenson on high impact practices, so it's not a symposium, but we'd love to see you there. Come talk about peer service learning with us. And also hear about our peer-reviewed journal, educational practices and kinesiology. We would love your teaching practices, original manuscripts, etc.
Oh, perfect.
Yes, we're in this room.
Oh, even better, in this room. You just sleep here and you can just be waking up right here tomorrow.
Symposium, and I want to say it was in 2018 in Orlando. We had a Saturday morning at 8, but we packed the room. And
Yeah.
so, but it took us 3 years of submitting to finally get it approved, and we got it approved because one of the participants called in a favor with Walt Thompson. But I mean, there is a history of it and there's a need for it.
For sure.
And I'm thrilled that you all are seeming to get more traction with the leadership. Because we've been, yelling, politely, but yelling that, the future membership comes from us teaching undergrads to make them into the future grad students, to the future, professional members. And we need a place where it's not just showing the research of our teaching, to be able to sit and talk about assignments and new class design and those sorts of things. And I've seen it before with, instead of a room set up like this, but a room set up with round tables where it's a 15-minute, and then switch tables and there's different topics and you can really get some good interaction with folks in the room and really share ideas. And I think that's amazing.
Yeah. I think we lost a little during COVID of there was some restructure and things, and there just wasn't someone with our voice in the room at those meetings is with the way I think it might have happened. I could be wrong, but we're trying to get that voice back in for sure.
So that brings up another thought for me, and this comes from me being part of another research group. Not part of the health equity research group, and for us, every meeting we have, we tend to, at the end of the meeting, we'll bring up ideas from the group for symposium. One of the potential faults of that for us is it ends up being every year. Sometimes they're new ideas, but like you said, it took 3 years, right? So I would encourage, at least, SIG, if there's an idea that we feel is important, if it don't get discouraged, one, but if that needs to be revisited each meeting, so that message eventually gets out, because sometimes it does take time. For any of us who have submitted symposiums, sometimes it takes multiple times. So I guess it's okay to repeat that message.
Yeah. I think if it wasn't accepting, you think it's good, refine it a little bit, ask the people around you, resubmit. And as you're seeing those, again, hopefully, as chairs change and roll out, but the idea of the leadership here is that maybe we can be more of an advocate. And I think there should be something with our SIGs, especially as big of one as what we have and very specialized. We're not, couldn't be 15 like we really do well here, that maybe we're allowed a little bit more of a voice in the room to advocate for some of the symposiums that people have said they wanted, right? And show that collective. Other questions, comments, coups? No coups? Okay. I mean, you never know. Awesome. Well, we really thank you guys. We do encourage you guys to sit around and talk. Please, again, consume. You saw they were trying to take it already. It is not cheap to do these things. And so please consume it. Take it home with you. Fill your water bottles up. I don't care. Just make sure it goes. Take their plates, whatever. Fill your purses. I don't care. But the 2 QR codes left are, one, if you are not a part of our regional or our national SIG, that will take you to the link where you just kind of put in your information, sign into your national account, and actually sign up for our SIG, and we'll get your email and it'll all be official. Because do remember that to apply for the award, you do have to be an active member of our SIG and of the national ACSM. And so you do want that because it's a pretty nice cash prize, or sorry, honorarium. That's the word I have to use. And then we all know what it is, but we have to use the proper word. And then if you did not sign in because you came in late, the QR code there to your left just allows us to keep track of who is here tonight. Again, continue to build that email base as well. We want to make sure those things are up to date. We do try to check that. And then a reminder of the next in-person meeting being June 1st through the 4th, 2027 in Indianapolis. That is not what Indianapolis looks like. I just didn't change the picture because there's no beautiful picture of Indianapolis. Sorry if you're from there, sorry, but you can't fight that picture. And so we hope to see you all there, but more importantly, we hope to see you at our fall and spring webinars. And please give us those ideas. We will probably send one email out this summer with kind of this recording, the PowerPoint slides, some information like that. And then you won't hear again from us until the semester starts because you need a break and you need to get ready for the fall. And I don't want to take that from you. So we will talk to you guys in the fall, but please reach out to us. We will be checking email and are available throughout the summer. Thank you guys so much.
Between face-to-face and online, yeah. Well, some of it is also.